These are not bad apartments by any means, these Stalinistic apartments. This was very chic 1990s. A lot of West Germans wanted to live here, but little problem here is that noise pollution is very loud on Karl Marx LA, so the West Germans ended up moving out of here, but it was kind of a chic thing to do here in the 90s to have a Stalinistic apartment. Now, I do want to talk about, though, the year 1953, because that's an important year, not just for German history, for European history as a whole. Something very important happens that March. That is, Joseph Stalin dies. Power vacuum in the Kremlin. Lots of men want to fight for this next dictatorship position. But you can imagine, well, the two strongest contenders, Nikita Khrushchev, thank God he gets it, he's a little bit more reform-oriented man, and another man who's really fighting for this position, Lavrenti Beria. Only man that Joseph Stalin ever trusted. You can imagine the kind of man he was. He was in charge of the KGB, basically. Now, when the Nazis invade the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin all of a sudden has a more important task for Beria, his friend. Beria becomes in charge of the Soviet atomic bomb nuclear development program. Beria doesn't like this job, doesn't give him as much power. 1949, that's the year when the Soviet Union develops an atom bomb. And then Beria says, well, great, now we have it, but I want my old KGB job. He gets his old KGB job. Problem for Beria. Too many new people had been hired in the KGB. Men that are not Beria's men. He doesn't trust them. And so after Stalin dies, Beria moves in the KGB and he starts to do this massive purging from within the KGB. Lots of KGB agents themselves, they end up in gulags. In the meantime, East Germany, dictator here, it's also Joseph Stalin's right-hand man, a dictator named Walter Ulbricht. His economy could not compete with the West. That little bit of an immigration problem that I mentioned earlier. And so 53, all of a sudden, Beria, he starts to give this enormous amount of pressure on Ulbricht. Fix the economy here. Ulbricht, panic, decides he's going to raise the workers' quotas to 10%. What that means is workers, they're going to have to produce 10% more than they were producing earlier. Not only do they not get a pay raise, as a matter of fact, if they don't meet these quotas, this money is taken out of their pay raise. Very unhappy people. This is particularly affecting the construction workers who are under this enormous amount of pressure to complete Stalin-LA. And guess what? These quotas, they don't fix the economy. More pressure from Moscow. So what does Ulbricht do? He says, oh, well then I'm going to raise the workers' quotas to a further 15%. That's a total of 25% workers' quotas increases. Oh, these people are really unhappy. So the construction workers here, they meet in a boat, River Spree. They end up holding an illegal trade union meeting. Stasi's, baby organization, KGB, purged from within. No one's listening in on them. 16th of June, 1953. That's the day when these quotas are supposed to go into effect. They show up here to the site, yeah, but they don't pick up their workers' tools. They pick up openly anti-communist placards and they start to march towards Walter Ulbricht's private office. So, Walter Ulbricht, you know, quite a large demonstration, shows up in front of his private office. He's a coward. He doesn't address these people. What does he do? He escapes to Hankow. Nice little villa house there. His Minister of Agriculture addressed the crowd. The Minister of Agriculture said, oh, it's okay, we'll lower the quotas. Too late. These revolutionaries, they don't care about the quotas anymore. They say, we want this government over, done with, toppled with. We want a West German style government. Next day, 17th of June, 1953, they call for a nationwide strike to happen all over East Germany. Over 1 million people in East Germany end up participating in this strike. where the tour started from, Pariserplatz. Entire tours filled with people. Something the revolutionaries did, unfortunately, not know. Bricht, back in Pankau, gets on the phone, and he immediately calls Betty. Help me, I have a revolution on my hands. Oh, Betty flies. ASAP to Berlin. Next day, 17th of June, all of a sudden, from the Brandenburger Gate, have Soviet tanks. And they just start to roll towards the people, basically pushing them away from West Berlin, I mean to say. Between those tanks, Stasi's, armed, ready, as well as the East German police force, the Volkspolizei, armed, ready. Ultimately, tanks, Stasi's, fire at the people. 250 people lose their lives that day. They're running away from the tanks. Bullet hits them from the back. By the way, an additional number of dead people from this revolution, 17 Soviet tank drivers. They disobeyed orders. Saw civilians, said, I'm sorry, I don't want to shoot at civilians. I don't want blood on my hands. Those 17 soldiers got executed by the Soviet authorities a couple of months after this revolution for disavowal of orders. 1,700 life in prison sentences handed out months following the revolution. By the way, I haven't even read a figure of the amount of lesser jail sentences given out. Not to mention I've heard about a couple of thousand people mysteriously disappeared after this revolution, never to be heard of again. And the economic repercussions on this country are even worse, because overnight, immigration to West Germany doubled. It was after this point, it was 1 out of every 6 East Germans. Ultimately, 2.6 million East Germans. They knew this country was a failure. They're going out to the West, eventually leading up to the construction of the wall here. As far as Betty is concerned, happy man. He thinks that having secured East Germany back to the Soviet sphere of influence, it's like gotten this, Kremlin position there, right? Flew back to Moscow. He really expected to see a hero's welcome home. That's not what he saw. Khrushchev, smart man, played his cards fast, right? Beria steps off the plane, KGB agents. They have a warrant for Beria's arrest. The official warrant is Beria is being charged for being a Western spy. That was impossible. No way he could have been a Western spy. But those were the official charges. Beria brought in a basement cell in a KGB office. 2 days later, strangled by his own bodyguards. Dirty, disgusting, kind of mafia-style death, but I have to say, in a way, an appropriate death. Because at the end of his life, Beria got a taste of the culture that he had managed to create here in this part of the world. We're gonna have one more tram to take. So again, we're back on the tram, the party tram. M10, yay. You guys like this tram, don't you? And we're going for 4 stops. We're getting out at Warschauer Straße. That's the last stop.